Welcome to episode 6 of the E30 K-Swap build. Finally gearing up for the transmission install, which means the motor's got to come off the stand. So a little bit sketchy doing this type of stuff on your own, but not the worst thing in the world either. So tapping out the bolts here, unscrewing everything, and kind of hoping for the best. So once this thing is free, it's time to drop it down to the floor. I'm sure there was a better way to do this, but I don't know, this is just what I thought of at the time. To lower it onto one pallet and then to just try to wiggle it onto the next one. I mean, I probably could have just put it on the pallet I wanted first and then gotten that pallet off the stand onto the floor. But it's a pretty steep drop. I don't know, this really doesn't make sense watching it back, but this is how I did it. After completely throwing my back out, it was time to actually get to work. So first thing up was to attach the transmission adapter plate. And I had the bolts from the previous owner of this setup, but they were all kind of just in a mixed bag. So I opted to order a new set so everything was sorted and organized and I could know what was what. Off camera, I actually took these bolts off and installed them again with Loctite. Next on the agenda was chopping up the transmission. So as you can see here, the Honda starter interferes with the BMW transmission. So I tried my best to mark a center point, trace out where it pokes out, and then trace it onto the bell housing. What I didn't realize was that my angle was just way off, so I actually had to open up this hole quite a bit. I don't know if this is the best method to just cut these slits into it, like you're using it for wood, but it actually worked pretty well. It gets a little choppy, but nothing the flat disc can't handle. Here's the first test fit, and this was just one try of probably 3 to get the hole just right. So you could see it interferes, and here I am doing it again after opening it up, and it actually does fit now. Bolting this up is a bit of a challenge by yourself, but some random scrap wood got me pretty close, and then I was able to just kind of wiggle it and start the threads. With the fitment all confirmed, next thing was to remove the transmission and bolt up the flywheel. I'm just going to be bolting up 2 roughly to hold it in place while I can Loctite and final install the rest. Put a nice giant glob on this first one and wipe it off, but all these bolts are brand new OEM from Honda and they're torqued to 87 foot-pounds. I put a wrench here to hold the flywheel in place while I torque it, so you don't need a second person. As you can see here, this clutch alignment tool doesn't fit quite right, so I'm just going to fatten it up with some painter's tape. Pretty important to degrease the flywheel before installing the clutch so there's no oil or anything on it. Finally, it's time to install the pressure plate, so put in my new bolts and torque them all to spec. So that just about wraps it up. Next video will be finishing the chassis prep, and then I can finally drop in the motor.